What's up, YouTube? I want to go over gourmand fragrances. Now, when we do gourmand fragrances, we need to break this up. First of all, the first one is the vanilla family. And Body Koros has this kind of benzoin vanilla vibe to it. So it's kind of a light gourmand. It has more of a manly feel. Not as much sweetness as some of the others. It's a little richer. Then Le Mal is another gourmand too. And kind of in the same family, you get kind of a minty vanilla with some cinnamon in the dry down. And this is more of a fougere kind of fragrance. I mean, it has a variety of notes, but it does have pretty prominent vanilla in it. It's definitely noticeable in that fragrance. And then Kali Minogue Inverse has kind of a creamy condensed milk note, almost like vanilla fudge. So, those are certain vanilla fragrances, and John Varvatos has kind of a fig Newton thing going. Like you have some figs and plums, kind of syrupy fruits with the wood. And that's what makes it really more of a gourmand, because it has that kind of syrupy feel to it. Very sweet. And there's just like a touch of vanilla in that. It's known that, there are some spices in it. It almost smells like you baked some fig Newtons. Definitely has that dried fruit smell to it. And so, in the sugar gourmand, like the caramel, caramel can be used in a lot of ways. Like, there's a lot of chocolate gourmands where you get a little bit of chocolate and coffee and caramel, like in Roca Man and Amen by Thierry Mugler. And Roca Man, you have more of the coffee smell and more of a rich smell, whereas Thierry Mugler Amen, you have more of that chocolate smell. And Amen is a little more on the candied end. It definitely is a lot more sensual and has that kind of quality where, some people like it, some people don't. And then, there's also the anise licorice side to the gourmand fragrances too, because there's a lot of licorice scents out there now. And, David Beckham has kind of a light gourmand feel to it. There is some anise in there, but it's mixed with woods and other ingredients. But then you also have Lolita Lempica. Now this one, it's funny. It starts out very licorice-like, and then it dries down into more of a powdery vanilla, a lot like Jean-Paul Gaultier. So, that's another one. And, Body Koros has kind of a licorice vibe to it also. But, there's certain other types of gourmands. Like, a lot of times gourmands nowadays are combining a lot of stuff. Like, 1 Million purely is a gourmand. Because 1 Million by Paco Rabanne has kind of a caramel and candied cinnamon in the dry down. And there is some blonde wood and white leather, white woods and blonde leather, or, definitely light woods and leather. With those names, it's definitely not very prominent in the fragrance. It's kind of like a candied, sweet gourmand. And, Paco Rabanne also has Black XS, which has, it may have that kind of that bubblegum opening, but you have some praline and kind of have a different gourmand feel to it. It's also a sweet fragrance. So, in terms of gourmands, the sweetness tends to be the thing, but it's also the candy notes. Like Mont Blanc Individual. This one has some chocolate and vanilla and some spices, but it's more of a refined gourmand for an older person. Whereas, like Joe Balm. Now, that one has some cinnamon and vanilla, and, I get some similarities in that one to Jean-Paul Gaultier. Definitely. There is some of that similarity in this fragrance, because there's a lot of amber and tonka bean in there. I mean, it really has that heat in the dry down. So most of the time, when it comes to gourmand fragrances, the ingredients in the dry down really would make the difference. Like, a lot of the gourmands tend to be very, very heavy. There's a lot of amber in it. There's a lot of warmth. And, there's different uses. Like, nowadays, people are using chocolate a lot more. So, if you like Amen, Animale has chocolate in it, too. It's a little more of a refined smell. And then the Thierry Mugler also has a coffee gourmand, pure coffee. And then they also have a malted one called Pure Malt. And overall, the Thierry Mugler does a great job with gourmand fragrances. But also, one of the best gourmand fragrances is Hane Mori HM. I mean, she has, it starts out almost like maybe some lemon and some fresh florals, but then you get kind of a minty feel. And then the mint turns into mint chocolate chip ice cream, and then turns into chocolate with some vanilla. And to me, honestly, I wonder whether it's chocolate or whether it is peppermint, because it's just hard to tell when you smell one time. And then you smell it again, it smells like peppermint one time, then it smells like chocolate another time, it smells like mint chocolate chip ice cream. It kind of has that ice cream sundae feel to it. And it's also a very versatile gourmand, which is very uncommon for a lot of gourmands. They tend to be very much nighttime scents. And so a lot of these gourmands tend to have heavier ingredients. And Hane Mori is no exception, but it's actually something you can wear in warmer weather. And, when it comes to gourmands, a lot of times it gets down to spices and fruits and how the stuff is used. Like, a gourmand will tend to use bergamot as kind of a sweet, almost cherry smell. It's the sweetest citrus you put in fragrances most of the time. Like lime and lemon can be sour, but the bergamot gives kind of a sweetness to it. And then they oftentimes use, if there's chocolate, they often use caramel and burnt sugar and maybe make it a little bit of creamy or powdery. Like Dior has a cocoa note in there. But they also have amber and some woods and a lot of other ingredients to give it kind of a matrix. So it's not just straight chocolate. Whereas Thierry Mugler Amen tends to have a little bit of caramel to sweeten that chocolate. But I get a lot of chocolate when I smell that. And when you smell the top of the bottle, you definitely get that coffee chocolate smell. And a lot of times gourmands tend to have sweeter bases. Like, they tend to smell really good on skin, and they tend to be the cooler weather fragrance compared to a lot of the aquatics and fresh ones. So, now it's time to get into some gourmands that are good for the summertime. And first, Carlos Santana is a good one to wear if it's really warm outside, because there is cinnamon and vanilla in the opening notes, and then it dries down into kind of a powdery, woodsy scent, but it has a sweetness to it. Definitely has that apple cinnamon gourmand with just a touch of vanilla, maybe like an apple pie feel. Very nice one. Definitely good to check.